on this same night, February 5th, in the Omni. As you're facing Jack, Jake Roberts faces Jerry Briscoe and captures a victory. Jake spoke to me on the Snake Pit about this exact match in this moment because there were some really big things that resulted from it. Jake assumed he was putting Jerry over in the match, but instead, Jerry told Jake in the middle of the match to hit the DDT and beat him. And when Jake goes for the cover, Jerry offers him the booking position in replacement of Ole and Buzz Sawyer. So apparently, Ole was absolutely furious about the change, and Buzz was so upset that he quit the promotion following this. So right here in the ring, live while in action, Jake is finding out from Jerry that he's going to become the new booker for Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, man, there's a lot to discuss here. First off, do you remember Jake getting this opportunity?
Well, I was there. I wasn't, privy to that conversation, but yeah. And, that's the other thing about Jake that I've always admired. He has that skill, and it's kind of like, and you got to know what you're really good at and what you're not. It's kind of like, for me, my skill was, you tell me what you want, and I could go out in the ring and I can make it happen. And I can, you give me any opponent, if I have time to study him or whatever, and I can make that guy look good or whatever, but I wasn't the gifted booker. I wasn't like, okay, the guy who could say, okay, we're going to do this with this guy, and they're going to do this. And then the following week, because then it's kind of like you start way out here and you work backwards. That's what I've been told. It's like you start at the end where you're going to finish, and then you work backwards.
Yeah.
And anyway, but yeah, Jake's always had a great head, and for the psychology and putting guys together. I mean, I could see where different guys would be suited for one another and stuff like that. But to be that idea guy, to think about, okay, we're going to do this, and then we can do this, and then we can do this. That was never me. But Jake's always had that.
Now, did you know that about yourself at this time? I ask because I'm curious, like if Jack or Jerry had offered you a spot booking, you still being a fairly young guy in the business, do you think you would have accepted it, thinking you could do it, or did you know even back then, like, nope, not me?
No, I knew back then. I said, that's not for me, So.
Well, and Jake was passionate about it. He talks about it even to this day that, every time he went to a new territory, he was like, hey, can I help book? And he would end up helping Bill Watts book here down the road for free.
Yeah.
Bill Watts wasn't paying him for it. He was just doing it because he loved doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we discussed before that Buzz and Ole both had a tendency during this era to book themselves to look really strong, most notably with Buzz and his brother Brett defeating the Road Warriors during this time. It's funny because as I look at events after this, as soon as Jake takes over, he's consistently putting over Ronnie Garvin. Kind of shows you that Jake is all business, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about it when an active wrestler gets the opportunity to book? Most of the time it's a guy who's either a promoter or a former wrestler who gets the opportunity to pick up the pencil, as they say. I mean, obviously Jake is willing to do business, but we hear that a lot of other guys like Ole and Dusty and plenty of others were not quite as responsible when it came to objectivity.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like, if you're going to be the booker, then be the booker and be objective enough to not try to always highlight yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's if you can find that balance to where, like you're making your, okay, you became the booker, and then I'm trying to think, one of the guys that they had booking there while I was there, he was horrible.
Your first run in
Robert
Georgia?
Fuller.
Yeah, that was your first run there.
Robert Fuller was horrible booker. Oh my gosh, he wasn't even really that good of a wrestler. He almost. I'm glad Buck Robley came along, because Buck came along and took the book, and Buck saved me, buddy, because they had just about killed me, killed me off. Not, maybe not intentionally, but It's kind of like Robert Fuller was told, "Get me over," and the way he was getting me over was he was booking himself with me. I mean, as a tag team. Yeah. Uh,
Well, and for those of you who can remember, it was when Buck Robley took over. That's when Ted got the creative with the Freebirds, where he got all those pile drivers and stuff. Which
yeah,
is, man, a really strong angle for him to leave Georgia on the first time around.
yeah,
So that's all thanks to Buck Robley. So yeah, he's
yeah,
one of those guys with a great mind for the business.
yeah. I spent 4 days in an Atlanta hospital, and there wasn't a thing wrong with me. That's
Now
a good worker.
that is dedication to the craft.